my name is Jess from Sallie Tomato and welcome to our channel. Today we're going to be making a pouch that fits inside a 3-ring binder. This is a great project for beginners and it's easy to customize by using different fabrics, and you can even add applique to the back side of the pouch. I'll be sharing tips for sewing with faux leather, cork fabric, clear vinyl, installing zippers, and grommets. So let's get started. First, start by gathering your supplies. You'll need a piece of main fabric. We'll be leaving most of this project raw edge, so some types of fabrics you could use are cork fabric, faux leather, craft tex, or any other fabric that doesn't fray. You'll also need a piece of heavy stabilizer. I'm using Bosal craft tex, and this will be used for stabilizing the area where our grommets will be installed. You'll need a piece of clear vinyl. I'm using 16 gauge vinyl, and this will be used for our clear window of our pouch. You'll also need 3 grommets. You can use grommets that have an inner diameter of 3/8 inch or 1/2 inch. And keep in mind that grommets have 2 halves to them. I'm using our Sallie Tomato double face snap together grommets, so they look nice from either side. These are available in 5 finishes, including nickel, gold, antique, gunmetal, and rose gold. And you'll need a zipper. I recommend using size number 5, and this will be for the closure on our pouch. You'll also find a list of helpful notions in the pattern. Some helpful notions include scissors, a rotary cutter, mat and ruler, a hole cutter, polyester thread. I like to use Sulky Poly Deco. This is a 40 weight polyester thread. It's very strong for these thicker materials that we'll be working with, and it has a nice sheen to it for our top stitching. You'll need some sewing clips, such as Clover Wonder clips, chalk or a removable pen, basting tape, a stiletto or awl, a zipper foot, a Teflon foot comes in handy, hot glue or fabric glue, and a hammer or a screwdriver depending on the type of grommets that you're installing. Download the free binder pouch pattern from sallietomato.com and follow the cutting instructions. Remember, when you print the PDF pattern, it's important to print at 100% or actual size. You'll need to cut 1 piece from your main fabric for the pouch front using the pattern piece. Make sure you cut the outer and inner lines. The best way I found to do this was to first cut out all the lines on the pattern piece, then position the pattern piece on the wrong side of my fabric and trace all the outer and inner lines onto the fabric. Then I used a rotary cutter and scissors to cut along the lines. The 3 dots will be used for our grommet placement. You can choose to add 3/8 inch or 1/2 inch grommets, so you'll need to cut the holes accordingly later on, but we'll cover that later in this tutorial. You'll also need to cut 1 piece from your main fabric for the pouch back, and if you'd like, you can cut a piece for the zipper tab. From your heavy stabilizer, you'll need to cut 1 piece, which we will use to stabilize the grommets, and from your clear vinyl, you'll need to cut 1 piece for the window. Whenever you cut clear vinyl, you want to try your best to cut the piece smoothly and continually, rather than stopping and adjusting, because you'll have the chance for accidentally shredding the edges or for bumpy edges. Keep in mind that once the vinyl is cut or poked with something sharp, it will not self-heal, and take your time for measuring and cutting. If you'd like to add embroidery or applique to your project, now would be the time to do so. Add any embellishments you'd like to the back piece of the pouch. Make sure you do not embellish 1.5 inches wide of space along one long edge, because that will be where your grommets will be installed. If you want to cover up any stitching, use hot glue or fabric glue to adhere a scrap of your material to the wrong side over the stitching. One tip is to use the large rectangle scrap that you cut out from your front window area and just center it over the wrong side and glue in place. Another great option is to use fabric markers to color or draw on your fabric. Some cork designs have fun prints that can be colored to make your own. Once any embellishment is complete, we can move on to installing the zipper. For my project, I'm using Sallie Tomato zippers by the yard. What I love about zippers by the yard is you can make any length of zipper you need up to 108 inches. Our zippers have a metallic coil, so it appears to be metal, but it's actually nylon, which makes it easy to cut and sew directly over the coil. Be sure to check out our tutorials on how to use these zippers. To attach the zipper, cut 2 pieces of basting tape the same length as the zipper. Adhere 1 piece to each long edge of the zipper. Remove the paper from the basting tape to expose the other sticky side. With right sides up, center your front panel over the zipper so the coil shows through that narrow cutout section, and press down to adhere the zipper in place. The tape really comes in handy because you can't put pins through cork fabric or faux leather because they will leave a permanent hole, and this spot is difficult to use sewing clips on anyway. Set your machine to a 3mm stitch length. Attach a Teflon foot or Teflon zipper foot to your machine if you have one. If you don't have either of those feet, you can add a layer of tissue paper on top of your fabric before beginning to sew to help prevent your presser foot from sticking to the fabric. The tissue paper can easily be torn off after sewing. Then top stitch the zipper in place an 1/8 inch from the cutout section. Backstitch in place or leave a long thread tail to tie off the threads when you reach the beginning of your stitching. Next, we're going to attach the clear vinyl to our project. Double-sided basting tape comes in handy for adhering clear vinyl in place because we can't use pins on vinyl. Cut 2 5-inch pieces and 2 8.5-inch pieces of basting tape. Adhere the shorter pieces along the short raw edges of the large cutout section on your project against the wrong side. Then adhere the longer pieces along the long raw edges. Remove the paper from the basting tape to expose the other sticky side. Center the clear vinyl window over the cutout section and press down to adhere in place. Make sure a Teflon foot is attached to your machine if you have one. Again, if you don't have a Teflon foot, you can add a layer of tissue paper on top of your fabric before you begin sewing to help prevent your presser foot from sticking to the vinyl. Then top stitch the vinyl in place an 1/8 inch from the cutout section. Backstitch in place or leave a long thread tail to tie off the threads when you reach the beginning of your stitching. If necessary, tear away any tissue paper you sewed over. On your back piece, center one long edge of the heavy stabilizer piece 1/4 inch in from the long edge that your grommets will be installed on. Use wonder clips or basting tape to hold the stabilizer in place. Top stitch the stabilizer in place an 1/8 inch from the raw edges. Place the pouch front and back wrong sides together and align all 4 outer edges. Use sewing clips to hold in place. Top stitch the pouch pieces together an 1/8 inch from the outer raw edges. Now we're ready to install the grommets. First, you'll need to mark the placement. Use the sharp end of your stiletto or awl to puncture a hole at each grommet placement mark on the pattern piece. Align the pattern piece over your project so the grommet placement marks are opposite of your zipper. Use a pen to mark the placement marks. Next, I recommend using a hole cutter to cut the holes for your grommets. To use a hole cutter, position a block of wood or cutting mat under the area to be cut. Then center the hole cutter over the placement mark and hit the top of the cutter with a hammer. It's common for hole cutters not to cut clear through all the layers depending how thick your project is, so you may have a few threads to snip. Mine did a nice clean cut, so I'm going to cut the next hole. If you don't have a hole cutter, center 1/2 of your grommet over the mark and trace the inside circle. Use a seam ripper to get the hole started, then use the scissors to cut out the rest of the circle slightly larger than the area you traced. Once each of your holes are cut, install the grommets according to the manufacturer's instructions. I'm using Sallie Tomato Snap Together grommets, which install by snapping together. To make sure these are tightly fitted, I'm going to cover each side with a scrap of batting and hit the grommet together with a hammer a few times. After installing your grommets, you can fill your new pouch with goodies and insert into a binder. If you want to add a strip of fabric to your zipper pull, simply fold a tab piece in half with wrong sides together, thread the raw ends through the pull from the underside to the top side, and pull the raw ends through the looped end. Make any adjustments to make it look nice, and trim the ends at an angle. I hope this project inspires you to stay organized and will remind you to never stop reaching for your goals. Share photos of your completed project using #SallieTomato. We'd love to see how you're using your new pouch. Also, be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future tutorials. Thanks for watching!